Alright, so let's do this one more time. We're going to make this a little bit easier, try to go a little bit slower. If you want to try to reset the activity, which is a button just over there next to the check results, until you get the same device names and the same IP address schemes, and that's fine. Ultimately, it's not really going to matter what the device names are and what the IP addresses are, as long as you're basically following along. We have 2 switches and 2 computers that are connected into like a U shape or a C shape, depending on how the topology is set up. But for the most part, it's exactly the same. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go through the basic information here, where we are going to console from user computer 01, which is this one over here, and then we are going to connect that via terminal cable over to ASW1 or whatever yours is named, and then over to 2 as well. So let's go ahead and get started. First, we're going to click on the little lightning bolt here, then go on to the little blue, console cable. I want to connect the console cable into an RS-232 into the console port of switch 1. Okay? So now that we've got that connected, let's go ahead and go back to our computer, click on the PC itself. We're going to click desktop. Then we're going to go over the terminal emulation. Leave these all defaulted. Do not mess with them. Just click OK. Now you can see here we've got a little bit of information. This is just your general startup when you turn a switch on for the first time. It runs through this general information. So don't worry about that. Just hit enter so you can get to the user plain user exec mode. We want to get into privilege so that we can start making some configurations. Let's go ahead and do that. Enable. Then we're going to get into the global configuration, which is configuration. I'm just going to hit the tab to make that a little bit faster. Terminal. And now we are in the global configuration. You can tell by the config into the parentheses right after the word switch. The first thing we want to do here is we want to go ahead and the first thing we want to do here while we are immediately connected is go ahead and change the host name. So in order to do that, from our global configuration, we're going to type in host name, and then following the addressing table or the directions and the requirements for this instruction, ASW-1, because that's the switch that we've connected into. You can check that by looking right over in this area, and it'll tell you exactly what switch we're on, and then hitting enter. And you can see we've already got a single point, which is great. Now let's go ahead and move on into some additional, more complex, not complex, a bit of a stretch, but some additional configuration as far as passwords is concerned. The first thing we want to do is we want to get into the line console 0. We only have one terminal to get into on the, beg your pardon, on the actual physical space or physical portion of the switch. Go ahead and enter, and as you can see, the config-line means that we are actually interfaced with the line. We want to add a password, and that password in this case is XAW6K. Hit enter, and you can see now we have 2 points. And then we want to tell it, hey, this is for when I log in. So you would type that as well. Hit enter. Now we want to go ahead and get into the VTY lines. Now the purpose of the VTY lines is give you a virtual interface that you can remote from a PC or remote station into the virtual switch without having to be right next to it. That's something I haven't gone into, and nor has the documentation that we've been talking, or I've talked about or briefed you guys, lectured you on yet, but just so you know, that's what it's there for. So we're going to test that out here at the end. So line, spelled like it's spelled, VTY, and there are 16 ports, but it starts with 0, then space 15. That's 0 through 15, gives us a total of 16 interfaces. Hit enter. Same thing, password, and we're going to use the same password, XAW6K. These have to be specific by the for the packet tracer to actually pick it up as a, hey, this has been done. Hit enter. Then log in, and now you can see that we have 3 points, so we're making progress. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and exit out of that, and now we want to change the privilege, put a password on the privileged exec mode. So we're going to do that by hitting enable, and then password, and then we're going to give it the password that it has. So 6EB That's what mine is. This is one of the variables that changes for every packet tracer, so it may not be the same for you. Go ahead and hit enter. Now, you can see that we didn't get any points, and the reason why that is because we haven't actually put a secret, but we found out earlier in class that if you skip the plain text one and went straight to the secret, it wouldn't allow it. So let's type in enable secret, and then the same thing. Beg your pardon. 6 EBUP. Now this is going to give us an error and let us know that we have put in a password that is been the same thing as the previous one, and that's not best practice. And that would be correct. It's not best practice. But in this particular case, to get the points in packet tracer, you've got to do it once in plain text and then the same thing in encrypted. All right, so let's move on from there. So our next step here, you can see, is list as encrypt all clear text passwords. So if I go into exit out of this and hit show running config, hit enter, and you can see right here is I've got my secret password is encrypted, but my plain text password is not. Hit spacebar and go all the way down to the line. This is though it looks scrambled, it's not. My line and my VTY and my console passwords are both in plain text. So we got to fix that. So back into the configuration terminal, and then we are going to type in service password encryption. Make sure that you put a dash between password encryption. Hit enter, and now we're at 6 points. Okay, so we're making good progress. And the last thing that we need to do, we need to add a warning or something in the banner. So banner, MOTD, message of the day, space, quotation, warning, and then quotation again, and hit enter. Now we're sitting at 8 points. All right, those are our general configurations for securing the switch, but now what we need to do is we need to actually add IP addresses to our VLANs. So on switch 1, we're going to interface with VLAN 1. So we actually type that in. Interface VLAN 1. Enter. You can see that it changed from config to config-if, which stands for interface. Now we want to add an IP address. So IP address, then utilizing our table, ASW1 VLAN 1 is 10.10.10.100 with a default, or I'm sorry, a subnet mask of 255.255.255.0. So let's put that in. 10.10.10.100 255.255.255.0. And then make sure there's no dots, but there has to be a space between the IP address and the subnet mask. Hit enter. Now we have to make sure that that interface is actually turned on. So we have to give it the command, no shutdown. All these interfaces are going to be shut down by default, and we have to tell it to no, do not shut this down. Now it's gone to up. Now you see down at the bottom right of our directions, we're now sitting at 27 of 90 points. Okay, one last thing that we have to do. Let's go ahead and exit out of that. And now what we want to do is we want to save all the way out of that. You could have typed in end as well, would have done the same thing. I'll do that on the next one. We want to save the running configuration. So we are going to our non-volatile RAM. So copy, run, and I just hit the tab button because running config is a lot to type, and then start up configuration. Again, I hit the tab. Then hit enter. It's going to ask you if you want to put it in the, that's the destination file name. Yes, it is. Building the configuration, and now we have placed our running and startup configurations into the non-volatile RAM. And as you can also see, we're now sitting at 29 of 90 points. We're going to go ahead and exit out of that. Close this one. I'm going to move this over to the side, and now I want to physically terminal into switch number 2. Console in. Let's go ahead and open up our terminal emulation. Remember, leave these all as default. I'm going to go just a little bit faster on this one, so pause this as you need. If you weren't already pausing before, please do so as I go through this one now. We're going to go into the enable. Now I want to go into the configuration terminal. And as you can see, I did abbreviate that to configure-ter. conft like CONFT also works. We want to change the name. Host name ASW-2. Bam, done. Now we're at 30 points. We want to give the line console 0 a password. Password XAW6 K. Boom, done. We want to tell it that this is what it's going to use for people to log in. Okay, now we're going to line VTY. Remember, these are our remote terminals. 0 through 15. Boom, done. Password XA. Actually, I'm going to show you a quick shortcut for this. So you saw that I line VTY 0 through 15. Now I'm just going to hit the up arrow, and it's going to show me the previous commands that I've already done during this session. Login, and then boom, there's the password. These are the passwords for my console lines. Done. Hit the up password again until it says login. Done. We are now sitting at 32 points. Okay. Now let's exit out of that. We are going to go to enable. We want to put a password on that. And then that password is 6EBUP. Let me double check it. Yep, that's right. Enter. Now I want to make it an encrypted. Enable secret 6EBUP. Now, I said this on class, and I'm going to say it here now. Normally, you wouldn't do a plain text and then an encrypted text password. You would just do an encrypted text password and call it a day. But for the sake of these points, we're going to go ahead and do that. Hit enter. Yes, I'm aware we have a little error. You should not use this password again. Blah, blah, blah. Got it. Now we want to service our password encryption. I'm just going to hit the tab button. So we want to say service password encryption. Hit enter. And the next thing we want to do is go ahead and put our banner message of the day. Quotations, warning, end quotations. Enter. Okay. Again, now we have secured and we have warned people that they should not log into the switch. Now we want to interface with VLAN 1. Again, the reason why we only have one VLAN 1 for both switches and not VLAN 1 and VLAN 2 is because they're all on one network and you only need one VLAN. If you did a second VLAN with a different IP address, these two computers would not be able to communicate. So, interface VLAN 1. IP address. You can also use IP add like I have listed here. And that one is 10.10.10.150 with a subnet mask of 255.255.255.0. Hit enter. Hit no shut. Same as no shutdown. Enter. And now our VLAN 1 on switch 2 is active. So exit, or I'm sorry, enter. There. Now we want to go ahead, excuse me, and check to see if our we want to save our running configuration. So again, end, like I was telling you before, gets us back to the very privileged user exec mode. Copy, run, start. This is the abbreviated same thing as copy running config, startup config. Same thing. Enter. Is this what you want to call it? Yes, it is. And it is now saved. We are sitting at 58 points. Okay, so the final step on our instructions is to verify connectivity. Well, there's actually one thing that we haven't done yet. So I'm going to hit the delete key, and you see it turns into an X, and I'm going to delete out the VTY, or the console line. Escape, so that I get back to a regular mouse, or a pointer. Go to my IP configuration. You see we're set at static. That's what we want. Now I'm going to enter in this information on PC or user 01. So my IP address is 10.10.10.4. Notice here that it's auto-populated 255.0.0.0. This is a class A address that we're using and therefore will default to this. However, we are trying to default or change the subnet mask to a class C, which is 255.255.255.0. we're going to get into classes of IP addresses probably in our next IP subnetting lecture, so don't stress out about it right now. Just know that that's what you have to have. Go ahead and click anywhere out of that, and boom, now we're sitting at 74. Close that, close that. Let's go ahead and open up this one, desktop, IP config. Again, same type of thing. We have to go into static. We're on user 2, so 10.10.10.5. Now we're at 82 points, 255.255.255.0. Boom, we are now at 90 points. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to, it actually tells us to do is to verify that all the devices can talk to each other. So how we do that is we go and open our command prompt. We are on PC2, so by your table, we know that we're at this IP. And we're just going to ping the other computer at the other end, which is 10.10.10.4. And then, boom, we have got replies back. So we know that works. We're going to go ahead and ping an IP address, or I'm sorry, VLAN now. Let's do the first one, 10.10.10.100. It might take a second. The first one may time out because it's looking for it, even though it had to pass through it to get to it. But the next 3 will be responsive. Boom, done. Okay. So now we know that our computer will talk from one end to the other through the VLAN and talk to the VLANs that the network is comprised of. One more thing I want to show you guys, just to kind of reinforce the VTY thing that I was talking to you about earlier, is that we would get into the VTY, or we would be able to remote into our switches through the VLANs with the VTY. So how do we do that? Well, we do telnet, which is a plain text remoting protocol, and then we just pick one of the 2 IP addresses. We've got 10.10.10, 100 or 150. So we already know that I can communicate with 100. So I'm going to type in 10.10.10.150. Hit enter, and now boom, we are now into remotely, because if you look at our diagram, you see no console cables. I'm on this computer, and I am remotely talking to this switch. Let's go ahead and type in our passwords just so I can show you. Let's see, XAW6K. Remember, this is not going to show you the password, but you can see I'm in AS-2. All right, let's go into the enable mode. 6EBUP. Same thing. Oops, I hit a key on accident. Hopefully it'll let me in. It's not going to show you that it's typing anything, but it is. Enter. Oh, I did get that. Here's the one. Okay, so now I'm just going to do a simple show running config. So you can see that I am legitimately in the switch that we just finished configuring. That is everything for this. Now you know how to very basic commands for, or not commands, but entries for a PC, and some basic entry and basic configurations for a switch for the VLANs. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, or you can ask them in class next time I see you. Until then, we'll see you around.